How are you today? First of all, I think we're all making the Washington Business Journal as a pornographer conference. Is that correct? Yes, that's right. So I woke up yesterday a digital marketer. Today I woke up a pornographer. Anyway, it's awesome. Really, really appreciate everybody coming. How many people here like the xPotomac site, the website? This man designed it.
How many people over here like that they have power?
Yeah? Yes. Okay. So let's just get into it.
Yeah. So when it comes to Google Glass and head-mounted display, augmented reality, we're all in here playing the part of speculation right now. So why are we even bringing this up right now?
Sounds good. I don't know how many of you noticed last week, but Google released a lot of materials about the Google Glass project, as it's called. They don't like using the words augmented reality or Google Glasses or whatever. And certainly they've developed a lot of momentum and hype for this product that's coming out next year. And it's going to be about $1,500. It is, in essence, the first mass market wearable computer. Although I will argue back at you and say Nike Fuel Band is the first wearable computer. What we are seeing, though, beyond just Google Glass, and so Jane doesn't get mad at me. By the way, this is our benevolent sponsor, Jane Quigley. I caught a lot of grief at dinner over Google Glass, by the way. The thing about wearable computing is that Samsung and Apple are also developing competing models. And what it does is it changes everything in the sense that what we carry around with these bricks, these mobile phones that we're walking around like this, and if you're an idiot like me, walking into telephone poles and the like, it's going to make these obsolete within 5 or 10 years once the right form factor hits. And I say that, and I believe it. It is the equivalent of the next MP3 player. Do you remember when everybody was trying to get the right MP3 player? Hey, it's the greatest MP3 player. And then finally, Apple did it. I'm not saying that Apple will do it because Jobs is dead. And it's just not clearly the same company, at least to me. Maybe they will do it. But somebody will do it. And once we have a wearable computing model that's mass market, you're going to start seeing augmented reality take place, which is basically instead of going like this, you're walking around and maybe something's telling you, or you're seeing it, or you're hearing it in a different way, information about your environment and the various things that you're doing. And to me, that is really the next generation of computing, and it's a dramatic shift for marketers and for media people, because suddenly we can't ask folks to simply be distracted anymore. They have to actually participate in their life. And so marketers are challenged by this. And with that, I'm going to ask Patrick our first question. We're going to do a little interview format here. When we talked about this over at Cozy in Arlington a couple weeks ago,
yeah.
You mentioned that this is like a choose-your-own adventure from a design perspective. Why is that?
Yeah, well, the reason for it, and if I go back to, do you guys know who Amber Case is? Amber Case? Okay, so last year she had a great keynote at South by Southwest, and she brought up a point that is very relevant. It was relevant before the iPhone, it's relevant before Google Glass, and it'll be relevant way after. And the idea was that human beings were all cyborgs, and that we've always created the tools that we need to live in our environment easier. Google Glass and the idea of a head-mounted display is the digital manifestation of that. And the reason for that is we've all seen the breakthrough. We all saw the disruptive technology of this brick right here, right? And what happened was we got rid of all the hardware, we put on a piece of glass, and we allowed the interface to become whatever we wanted it to be at the time that we needed it to be it. When we take that concept and we put it up here in the top right corner of our eye, we're taking that same exact concept. We're walking through our environment in a way where we can digitally enhance it so that we can add value, so we have an enhanced view of our environment. And because of that same concept of this glass, we can choose what we want to enhance it with. I mean, it could be us walking down Constitution Avenue and getting a historical context of the buildings there. It could be me trying to find out which of the 20 Starbucks is the least crowded here in this 3 blocks. It could be me sitting on the corner flinging Angry Birds at the IRS building. You know, it could
That's
be
like my daughter.
There you go. I mean, it can be whatever we want it to be. So because of that, there's another paradigm shift with it, is unlike the iPhone and unlike tablets, we're talking about devices that aren't, these are by definition escape devices. When it comes to the context of the real world, we have to break away from the environment that we're in, and we have to look, and as Geoff was talking about telephone poles, walk around like we're trying to find metal, you know, metal detectors. If anybody's going to South by Southwest in a couple of weeks, you'll never see any, but you'll see everybody, top of everybody's heads. You're not really going to meet anybody's faces. So what's happening, though, is we're not going to be doing that anymore. We'll be able to keep our heads up. As a matter of fact, one of the tricks for turning on Google Glass is to shift your head up a little bit so that it'll turn on and get ready for you to say, hey, OK, Google. With that in mind, that means that you're in the environment again. It's not escape. It's inclusive. You are trying to bring other things in to make that environment better. So what does that mean? That means everything that we do as digital communicators, designers, inventors, anybody in this medium, marketers, we're going to be forced to play the secondary role, a trusted role, where we make that environment better for them. We can't be asked to interrupt them. So that's what I mean by choose your own adventure, is that we get to walk through that environment the way we want to. Now, that was all from the visual side. You know, I'm not writing all the words. From a content marketer's perspective, how does that change? Because you're not writing things that people see anymore. You're writing things people hear.
Right. And you know, the content marketing is an interesting term because it's certainly the buzzword of the year and last year, but I kind of liken it to the old school advertising writer, or if you're a journalist, just simply writing. And that's what we do in marketing. We create copy. In media, we create copy. So if you're a writer, right now you write at people or you write to entertain people, but you basically write to distract them. You don't write to interact with them, right? And so the way I think that this is going to force us to change, at least as writers, is that we're going to have to start figuring out scenarios and dialogues and basically become dramatic writers. I think it's kind of interesting to be in a theater and have this conversation, but basically be able to anticipate to some extent what questions we receive and at least have enough data stored so when somebody asks a question or plays a scenario that we can at least provide some choices of information to provide them. So when we consider Siri and where we're going with voice search, to loop back to Vanessa's section, Siri is really the future because it's highly interactive, obviously, and it sources information to you as you ask. Google Talk's the same thing. Now, we all know that these devices right now have some issues, and these algorithms, as they're known as Siri and Talk, have issues. But they will only get smarter and better as time progresses, as the algorithms get stronger, as computing power increases. And so I think when you consider that, you know, from a marketing standpoint, from a writing standpoint, it's really about trying to figure out the way people are going to be engaging in the environment rather than necessarily pushing at them and trying to capture them. So I think we can't be as gimmicky as we have been. It forces us to get out of that. So we were talking just a second ago about the immersion and the telephone pole issue and walking around with your head sticking out, or at least in my case, the shine blinding everybody. What does that mean from a design standpoint, like from a hardcore, like, hey, how do I build this?
Yeah.
Interactive.
Well, from the visual design perspective, I get the feeling that people will stop saying make the logos bigger. They'll be saying make it louder. And that's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but there's a point to it, and it goes to what you were saying, Geoff, which is we're always trying to, it's a numbers game, right? We're trying to get more views, we're trying to get more attention, we're trying to do all these things to move the needle. And the only way we do it is we take these old mentalities and these old ideas to do that, and it always comes back to interruption, right? And as a user experience designer, it doesn't matter if it's visual, it doesn't matter if it's going to be print, it doesn't matter if it's on TV, it doesn't matter what it is. As a user experience designer, there's one fundamental goal, which is a great user experience does not demand your attention, it focuses it. So as designers, we're going to have to be able to create things that fall by the wayside. It's not about adding all the chrome on top of our designs. It's really about getting the content in there, getting the data in there, and understanding that there's well, if I step back for a minute, when it comes to interactive design in general, there tends to be three segments that interactive and interaction works in. That's entertainment, information, and utility, or some combination of that. When we're talking about head-mounted displays, the two that are going to come to the forefront are going to be information-driven and utility. You're going to have entertainment in there, sure, but it's going to be through one of those other two pieces. And that's what we need to do, is make sure that the utility lets us get in and get out, does not throw big logos in the top right corner and expect them to, that'll be a fast track to getting blacklisted by anybody. You're not going to be trusted. You need to earn that trust. You need to be able to provide things that are going to add that value. And by doing that, you just put what's needed at that moment and get everything else, get all the crap out of the way. So. Lightning round?
Lightning round. What's the first question? Context.
Context.
Context. So we're both going to both go off on this. I'll go first. He'll correct me. So if you consider what this means, we have to understand context. Who here's from New York? Where's the New York tribe? Woo! All right. So the New Yorkers, MetLife Stadium, okay? Put yourself in the stadium. This is the entertainment experience. You go in, you have your wearable computing, you're walking around. Imagine you're me, you have a little kid who loves Snoopy, right? And what is Snoopy? The MetLife spokesperson, right? Or cartoon or whatever it is. So I'm walking around the stadium getting my popcorn. Hey, Geoff, Snoopy is over here if you want to bring your daughter over there. Now that works great if I have my daughter with me. It works horrifically if I don't and I'm annoyed because I'm a cranky guy, right? And most people know me, no, that's true. You know, I'm going to be like, yeah, on Twitter. No, I don't do that anymore. But generally, you know, I wouldn't be happy, and if I was a normal person, I might rant on Twitter. Or I might say something on Facebook, or I might say something on Google+. That's normal. That's what most people do. That's the problem with context. Suddenly, we just can't throw it against the odds. Or if we are throwing it against the odds, we have to bring our shields because we're going to be wearing a lot of slop. We'll be wearing a lot of slop. Context requires us to get more information on a permission basis. When people tell us that we're going to be doing this with these people, that's permission. If I don't give you permission to know that I have my daughter with me, you got a problem. Because you don't know what you're serving me, and you don't know what the scenario is. There's a lot of risk with less information in a completely augmented mobile environment. Your turn.
All right. Well, this touches a little bit more on the design side. Visual context. Let's say I'm wearing the glasses and I'm walking down the street here, and it knows that, okay, I'm trying to get to point A, point B. Great. It puts up a little signal, maybe a red alert that says turn right, because it knows I'm walking. Now I'm driving. The exact same thing happens, and I freak out, right? Because I'm not remembering this. I just got these things. It needs to know exactly what kind of motion I'm doing, what kind of environment, what kind of vehicle I'm in, so that it knows how to alert me. Visual design is not going to be the top thing as it used to be with a lot of these things. It's also going to be haptic feedback. It's going to be audio signals, audio cues, assistive cues, that sort of thing, and being able to figure out, for example, that I'm moving at, you know, my lazy 2 miles an hour walking down the street versus driving at 50, knowing exactly what kind of signals it's supposed to be giving me to help me in that environment.
Very good. Yeah. So that's our shtick. This is highly speculative, so we're definitely interested in what you think and your questions and your thoughts.